Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. P Diddy's lawyer quit. P Diddy's lawyer backed out. New update in the P Diddy case. Sit back, get the whole story. P Diddy lawyer quits. Let's get it rocking. Make sure you subscribe to my daughter's YouTube channel, Unique Mecca Audio, Juanita, Mecca Audio, and Mecca Audio Prison Stories, and Mecca Audio TV. Alright? All right. I just want to fire that last gunshot. Yo, P. Diddy's attorney quit. And the crazy thing is, it's the only black man on the case. And now P. Diddy is raising racism. And the attorney quit for attorney-client privilege. You're going to hear all the news. Relax. Let's sit back. Let's enjoy this ride and see where we go from here.
High-profile attorney Alexandra Shapiro, whose client Sam Bankman-Fried actually shared a unit at the detention center with Diddy, and high-profile death penalty attorney Anthony Rico. Now, while the pair joined around the same time, Anthony in a court filing on Friday said he's leaving the case. In the filing, Anthony Rico said, quote, "For the reasons set forth below, this motion for withdrawals is filed so that Sean Combs may move forward with his defense and to commence jury selection and trial without any delay. As a result of discussion with lead counsel Mark Agnifilo, this motion for withdrawal of counsel is filed. While I am aware that the local rule requires that an application for withdrawal of counsel is supported and granted, there are sufficient reasons related to protections afforded by the attorney-client privilege for brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel in this case. Although I have provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs," end quote. Now,
what he's basically saying that under no circumstance he could work with them, so something happened that's real major on this case that we expect to be coming out any day now. The only black man on the case quit. And of course they holding it under seal and they're gonna say why, he quit. But whatever it is, it's making it look like maybe, just a speculation. Maybe a speculation that he didn't like the way they were treating Diddy and the way they was treating, the other European defendants that get charged with the same thing. And from that, maybe that was the reason he quit. But we're going to find out a little bit more about this because Diddy's raising racism, and that's one thing that we didn't expect to see him raising in this case.
Actually, in legalese, I quit, but I can't go into details because of attorney-client privilege. According to the filing, though, the defense shakeup won't delay the case.
Hey, yo, do you think maybe Anthony Rico told Diddy, yo, you can't win, dog. What are you doing? Do you think maybe Anthony Rico, being the only man on the defense team, looked at everything and said, man, I done fought all these death penalty cases. I done won all of this, man. There's no way in heck we could win this. You think he said that? Or do you think he said, man, they treating him too bad. Every time we file a motion, we're supposed to get granted, or whenever we ask the prosecutor for something, they're not giving it to us. Because the prosecutor is probably where the problem is at. Because the prosecution, they got all the evidence that all the field agents turned in on the case. When they turn in this evidence on the case, they're supposed to turn it over to the defense. After they take it, go to the grand jury and get an indictment. But then now, when it's time to turn it over to the defense, what they do is they handpick and give the defense what they want to give them. Now, they'll tell the defense stuff like what they tell Diddy's team about the videotapes that they want, freak-off tapes, whatever they call it, that they want them to come in and look at it in the office. Well, they did that with my lawyer, and they called it open discovery, where they went to the prosecution office to look through the documents. They had 3,500 pages of transcribed pages of my trial situation, right? Now, if you typed up 335 pages of people testimony, how many pages do you have of discovery that my lawyer got to look through, and you telling him he can't have it to look through it when he want, he only could come for a certain period of time. And, you just think about it. Does that make any sense to you? But that's where they go with it, all right? So maybe they didn't want to give him the discovery. That's what I would think if it wasn't something that he got into it with them, or maybe as, we just making some speculations. Let's ride. Maybe as the only black man, he had a strategy. They tried to push it, and everything he tried to say, they pushed him out the way. And the way we trained as Afro Americans, we trained to not believe nothing a black man say. Oh, I ain't gonna say that. We're gonna take that back. Strike it back, because we got the rat bastards. Right? Not okay. So not to believe nothing no one say, but to believe the man over the man. You know what I mean? So you know what it is. Look, I'm even gonna show you because we ride. You go to the department store. You go in any store. If you go in the store and you see a black person and a white person, that's it. You know what I mean? A black lady and a white lady, and you walk in the store. Now we're gonna say a couple more. You see people in the store, and you walk to a salesman. You see different people walking by. Who do you go up to ask for help? The black person, and if the black person is saying something, and let's say now they always do this. I don't know why black people do it. They say, "Yo, come here for a minute," and we'll call a white person over to explain what they supposed to know how to explain. You tell me how that worked.
Diddy will continue with 5 attorneys. That's Mark Agnifilo, Tinny Garagos, Alexandra Shapiro, Jason A. Driscoll, and Anna Esteval. Now, a judge still has to sign off on the motion, but with the government taking no position on it and the fact Anthony Rico spoke with Mark Agnifilo about it before filing the motion, a judge will likely sign off on it. Now, as I mentioned...
now they said that the prosecution signed off on it. For the prosecution to agree to sign off on something, right? That's serious. That means that it has nothing to do with the prosecution. So it's not that the prosecution held evidence. So we're going to take that back off the table because we riding. But now that has to mean that it was internal amongst the team. Could it have been that Anthony Rico is the man that the only one with the dark color? And Diddy used to only trust in the people with the color? So maybe he boogied, or maybe Diddy told him, get your black ass out of here. It's one or the other. Something's going on here. We're going to find out.
Anthony Rico is a very well-established death penalty attorney and was lead defense in up to 45 federal death penalty cases. His bio on the Fordham Law University website says some of the notable yet controversial cases included Anthony Rico serving on the counsel in the World Trade bombing conspiracy case and embassy bombing in 1998.
Yo, for a black man to serve on those cases? Whoa.
And he stays busy. He also doubles as an adjunct professor of law at Fordham and has been practicing law since 1982. As for Diddy himself, as many of us know, he's been locked up on charges of federal sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, that last charge I mentioned, i.e. count 3 in his indictment, transportation to engage in prostitution, well, Diddy's lawyers are wanting that charge thrown out, citing it's from a racist law. Just days before Anthony Rico filed a motion to withdraw from Diddy's counsel, Diddy's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss that charge because they argue no white person has ever been the target of a remotely similar prosecution. So that charge is known as the Mann Act, which was previously named by Congress as the White Slave Traffic Act.
Yo, you think maybe Anthony Rico got off the case because he's saying that, I can't do this. He's filing racism. Why would you file racism right now when everybody already feel you guilty? 98% of the people out there feel you guilty. Well, that was then, until I started to give you on the real that we have to support our own the same way every other race support their own, and they're innocent until proven guilty, no matter how overwhelming the evidence looked. Because when I went to trial, the first thing that my judge told the jury was, do not make a decision until you hear all the evidence and from both sides, the defense and the prosecution. Don't make a decision based on one side. Now, only thing we've seen that we're making our decision on is the Cassie tape. Guilty of sin, should be punished to the fullest extent of the law for that. But they said that there's sex with minors or something like that. Now, how do you have that and there's no minors in the case? Somebody explain that to me. Put it in the comments.
Which made it illegal to transport people across state or international lines for the purpose of prostitution. Here's the thing. Diddy's lawyer says the law has a history of racial bias. Diddy's defense seems to be gearing up toward his alleged criminal conduct wasn't criminal. It was his personal business of what was going on in his bedrooms or hotels or wherever the freak-offs occurred. So they're saying that count 3 wasn't transportation to engage in prostitution, but was just him using escorts, male escorts at that, to bring in as a third with his girlfriends. Whereas the government's theory of the case is Diddy used force, fraud, and coercion to make his alleged victims have sex against their will in his freak-offs that he recorded for his own pleasure.
Now, they're saying that Diddy forced, coerced, and did all this and made them have the sex acts. But let me say this. If that did happen, you already know should be punished to the fullest extent of the law, but that's not what we're dealing with right now. What we're dealing with is, where's that at an indictment? I thought an indictment was supposed to put you up on, notice on what you're being charged with, and you had the right to confront your accuser. Where's this at? Where are we going?
Now, Diddy pleaded not guilty to all his charges, hence why the case is going to trial. And that trial is set for less than 3 months from now, in early May. Now, despite being locked up for 5 months, Diddy's case continues to make headlines, not just from the federal trial, but also the dozens of civil lawsuits he still faces. But Diddy scored some wins behind bars. One of his civil lawsuits accusing him of raping a 13-year-old with Jay-Z back in 2000 was dismissed after the accuser dropped her lawsuit against the two moguls.
Do you think it's just a ride? An alleged joint. Do you think that Jay-Z paid off Tony Busby and a part of the settlement was for Tony Busby to, publicly say, he respectfully drops the case, for no reason? Could that be because Jay-Z paid behind the door? And that was a part of the settlement. Say, yo, look, I'm going to pay this money, but I'm trying to save my brand. You don't squeeze me too hard. I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take it. I'm willing to pay, but you got to help me keep my brand. And then you got to let me go out there and put out a letter, because I've been talking trash the whole time. You've been dealing with it. You're trash talking. You know what I mean? And my trash talking, I wind up surrendering. You got that. But let me put out this last letter, and I'm not going to say nothing else about it or your name. Well, maybe about it, but not your name. All right.
Now, both vehemently denied the allegation, and Jay-Z, for his part, took it a step further and sued the accuser's attorney, Tony Busby, for extortion. However, despite that being dismissed, Diddy still faces a number of civil suits, even from accusers whose lawyer isn't Tony Busby. As for Diddy's federal criminal case, the stakes are high. He's facing a minimum of 15 years in prison, but a maximum of life behind bars. Let's break down the latest defense team shakeup with attorney and former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Nima, it's always great to see you, and thank you so much for joining me today. What's your reaction to Anthony Rico saying he's quitting the defense team, and how significant is it, being that Diddy's 3 months away from trial?
Elizabeth, it is significant, and it's tough to know the reason why. It could be any number of possibilities. Sometimes it's when the lawyer hasn't been paid, but we know obviously Diddy doesn't have that problem. He's got plenty of money. It could be a disagreement regarding defense strategy. It could be a conflict. It could be a health issue. It really could be anything, and the paperwork doesn't identify it, nor should it. And the fact that Mark Agnifilo is still on the case and the other counsel of record leads me to believe that the judge is going to rubber stamp this motion and grant it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of surprised, like you were too, because even being inside the courtroom and throughout Diddy's hearings, you would see Diddy and Anthony kind of speaking to one another. He would always pass him notes while Mark Agnifilo made the arguments. Diddy and Anthony Rico would exchange hugs with one another. Anthony Rico always even made it a point to tell the judge Diddy's family traveled all the way to New York for his hearings. With all that being said, kind of going back to what potentially the reasoning might be, do you think that it might have been a personal conflict between Diddy and Anthony Rico, or do you think it might have been Anthony Rico with other counsel? But what do you make of all of that?
Potentially, it could be a conflict with the client, right? A disagreement. They just don't get along. The communication is poor. They don't agree on defense strategy. It could be a conflict with one of the other lawyers. Obviously, it seems like Agnifilo is the lead on this case, although Rico was certainly Yeah, his 1B. And I know obviously there's other lawyers on the case. Obviously, a lot of the victims are female. They're going to want female lawyers on the defense team, especially during some of the aggressive cross examination. That tends to be the conventional wisdom when you're dealing with victims who are alleged victims of sexual assault or abuse. And then it could be a conflict with one of the victims themselves. Maybe Agnifilo, excuse me, maybe Rico consulted with them or even represented them in such a way that he has to get off the case. So it could be any number of potential conflicts.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, kind of just looking at the motion to withdraw too, like you had mentioned before, not much reasoning given. Anthony Rico wrote, there are sufficient reasons related to the protections afforded by attorney-client privilege for brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel in this case. Although I've provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel.
Yo, that man said under no circumstances can he officially serve as counsel. No circumstances, that mean that it's something that he feel is major, and it may be against his moral compass to sit there and see the way they treating Diddy as a black man and the way they treated the other people that's been charged with the same similar type of charges, and him trying to get, oh my gosh.
5 other attorneys will remain on record. What do you make of just that? It felt like he was saying a lot, but then not at all much at the same time.
Well, when you withdraw, really, still need to protect the client and the confidences. So you don't want to say something that may jeopardize him or the case. And you also need leave or permission of the judge. So you want to provide enough so the judge knows that you're not leaving the client high and dry, but you don't want to provide too much that may compromise defense strategy or a weakness in the case or some other issue that would hurt the client. So it is a delicate balancing test. But again, when you have so many others still on the case, I don't expect there to be an issue here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know we've spoken a number of times about the terms of Diddy's defense strategy and what it kind of feels like possibly once trial comes. And it seems like they're kind of going for there was no force, there was no fraud, there was no coercion, that the freak-offs were consensual, there was no sex trafficking. Do you think they have something else up their sleeve, or do you think that the defense will kind of remain going forward that, all of this alleged bad acts were consensual and it was just a relationship between two parties? It ended sourly, but yet they, brought in escorts, and that kind of speaks to a little bit of that transportation to engage in prostitution charge. But what do you just make of the defense strategy that we've been seeing so far right now?
I think it has to be the defense, the consent, because look, sometimes you can argue that the sexual activity never happened, right? It wasn't me, defense. But this is not your typical sexual assault case. There are a lot of people there, right? There are people that are arranging the sex workers. There are people that are setting up lights and cameras, booking hotel rooms. Obviously, Diddy has a large entourage. So there's a lot of witnesses there. And a lot of this was allegedly recorded. So I think it's going to be very difficult to argue that it wasn't me. So you're going to have to argue that it was consensual. And we've talked about the line that separates sex trafficking from consensual sex. It's that force, fraud, or coercion. So I fully expect the defense to be, this was all consensual. These are all people who are trying to shake Diddy down for money. This is all extortion. That's why they're pursuing these claims. They're just piling on. But really, this is regret, not rape. And I think that's the defense strategy in this case.
Yeah. And I want to talk to you about a motion that was actually filed earlier this week, too, where Diddy's defense wants to dismiss count 3 of the indictment, that being transportation to engage in prostitution. They cite that the Mann Act is racist and that Diddy has been singled out because he's a powerful black man and he's being prosecuted for conduct that regularly goes unpunished. What do you make of that argument?
Now that they say that, I got a question. Why did they make that sooner? Everybody been saying that. I've been saying it right here. That we need to stick together because that's a black man that's now captured, and we have to make sure he get the protections of the law and the punishments of the law if he's convicted. But you don't convict him on social media from leaks that's coming out from the trial situation. It just don't make no sense. You know, bottom line, everybody already see it. We all see it, but I didn't think they'll raise it. I didn't think they'll raise it. We all see it. And now that they're putting it out there and it's in this, maybe now other podcasters that just look to dog anybody back out in order to get 2 views, you know, would be able to have something to put it out there that this dude look a little suspicious, right?
Those are very difficult motions to win. So it's essentially a selective prosecution motion. And the example I always like to give is, let's say you're speeding and a police officer pulls you over. It's not a legal defense to say, well, all these other people were speeding, but you didn't pull them over and ticket them. You have to show.
So in other words, you know, you pulled me over because I'm black. Mr. Attorney, let's go back to the 90s when we was driving them things up in 95 and the New Jersey Turnpike was doing something that they called racial profiling. Racial profiling is saying that he's a black man, he's driving a BMW with BBS rims, gold chain on his neck, gold teeth in his mouth. He's a criminal. He's a drug dealer. And we know that's a drug dealer attire, but nowadays you get anybody with an attire, but back then it was only us that was in that world that was wearing it. So if they seen a black man with a big chain on driving an expensive car down the turnpike, they'll pull him over, and they wound up ruling that there was illegal and unconstitutional. You couldn't racially profile. But they was asking the police officer, "Can we ride?" They was asking the police officers, you know, in the courtroom, "Why did you pull him over?" "Oh, because he's driving a BMW." It's like, yo, but everyone's driving a BMW. That's what the judge is asking. Everyone's driving a BMW. And it's like, nah, but he's got BBS rims on it. A lot of people has BMW BBS rims. We had a gold chain on and gold teeth in his mouth. And, you know, he looked like he getting, you know, illegal money. So then the judge said illegal money because of the way he dressed or the way he looked. And you could look at somebody and tell the type of money they get, or you could look at somebody and tell the type of image they want to project that they're getting from what they're wearing. Bottom line, they said it was unconstitutional. They couldn't racially profile them, and that's what Diddy going with now. Now let's hear his legal analysis.
Whether the prosecution is for a constitutionally prohibited reason, obviously race being one of them. If in the unlikely chance the defense can prove that this was a racially motivated prosecution that would have a chance of success, obviously that's going to be very difficult because there are a lot of victims. I believe that a lot of the victims were also black victims, men and women. So it's going to be.
Hold on. You see what I'm saying? This is how they try and sway it, and this what irks me to my stomach. He's saying that it was other victims and they was black. That's what they saying. It's a black on black crime. Did he ran with blacks? He freaked out with the blacks. Of course, they saying he had Leonardo DiCaprio, but they ain't trying to put their names up there for whatever reason, especially now with 47 in office. They know they got to, you know, do things a little differently. But, you know, how are they going to really say that, though? That makes no sense to me. Somebody explain to me how that makes sense. You know, we got to hit that back. We got to hit that back.
It's going to be tough to make that argument, but, you know, that's why prosecution that would have a chance of success. Obviously, that's going to be very difficult because there are a lot of victims. I believe that a lot of the victims were also black victims.
He's not talking about it basically that they racially profiled the black victims. Let's get that straight. I had to run it back. He's not saying that they racially profiled the black victims. He's saying that they racially profiled me, P Diddy, me. When Armacrotch and, you know, Epstein and everyone else got charged with it, they was treated differently. And come on, you already see what happened to Epstein. We trying to make sure it don't happen to me. And let me tell y'all a quick ride. Yeah, I'm gonna tell it to you anyway. I talked to my man, just came out of MDC, right? He went back for a violation. He just did like 22 years. So he go back for a little violation. So when he come back out, now he did 8 months in. He said, man, yo, Unique, I can't believe this, man. He said, you know, I had my cell phone here at MDC and the boy Diddy come there and just hot up the place. Jamaican. Him said, Diddy hot up the place, you know? When they brought all those people in to, you know, search MDC, but to make it look like they was, you know, searching everybody, but they were trying to get the Diddy cell when they wound up getting the notes and all that we spoke about here at Unique Mecca Audio. At that same time when that was going on, they had to hit other cells and units to make it look like it wasn't just Diddy they came in on, that they didn't racially profile him or celebrity profile him. See, we come up with words here, Unique Mecca Audio. That's why the rat bastards don't like me. But anyway, so, they went up in there, they took my man's cell phone behind Diddy, and he couldn't call me for 8 months. I didn't know if he was dead or alive, but I'm glad he's home. Let's give him a round of applause for making it out of there. All right. Relax, y'all. Relax.
Victims, men and women. So it's going to be tough to make that argument. But, that's why defense attorneys do what they do. Sometimes they throw these Hail Mary motions up there, hoping that maybe something will stick, if not at the trial court, maybe on appeal.
And you mentioned that, a Hail Mary. Why do you think that they waited until a few months before the trial set to begin to file that motion, given that count 3 has been on the indictment since September?
Sometimes you brainstorm, you talk with different appellate lawyers, because when you're defending a case like this, you're not just thinking about the trial court. You're thinking, okay, well, if Combs is convicted, what are the chances on appeal, both to the Second Circuit, which is the Court of Appeal there, and then potentially the Supreme Court? What arguments can we make? Creative arguments. So sometimes the appellate lawyers will come in, and oftentimes they aren't the folks that have anything to do with trying the case. You got your trial lawyers, you got your appellate lawyers. So maybe they come in and they say, hey, I want this motion filed, because if you don't make the motion in the trial court, usually you waive it on appeal, unless it's some clear error that the judge made. So you got to make these motions if you're the defense, if you want to have these same arguments if Combs is convicted.
Yeah, and then of course, Alexandra Shapiro being on Diddy's defense team, a very high profile, high powered appellate lawyer, as well as attorney too. And, even for you, Nima, as a former federal prosecutor, I asked you before what the defense might have up their sleeve, but what do you think the government may have up their sleeve come trial? And do you think that they have a strong enough case as we have it right now?
I do think they have a strong enough case. Obviously, if you're the prosecution and you're the government, you love the video evidence, not because it's lurid and cringeworthy, but your video doesn't lie. So when I have video evidence, I say, well, look, witnesses can lie, victims can lie, defendants certainly lie all the time, but that video doesn't lie. So I love the video evidence. Now, there are reportedly 100 plus folks who have filed civil lawsuits. You're certainly not going to call all of them, but if I'm the government, I really want to call my best victims. And by best, I mean the ones that are going to be the best witnesses. So obviously we know Cassie Ventura is one of them. She's going to be the star witness in this case, but there's a superseding indictment. They talk about a couple other victims, some of the physical and sexual violence. So right now what I'm doing is I'm sort of sorting through and saying, okay, well, I don't want to rely just on one victim, but maybe I want 3, maybe I want 5. Somewhere certainly less than 10. You're not going to parade all these victims there. It's cumulative, and it could potentially, you might lose the jury. So you're going to probably pick anywhere from your best 3 to 10 victims, certainly not more than that. Make sure that they're prepared on the stand, because the cross-examination is going to be very aggressive. This is a defense case that's pretty much going to be based on cross-examining the victims and saying that Cassie was upset because they had broken up, and this was a lover's dispute. It wasn't rape or sex trafficking. So that the cross-examination is going to be strong. You want to make sure those victims are prepared.
Absolutely. And of course, the news coming down just this week that Cassie is pregnant with her 3rd child. What do you think that could look like in front of a jury? You have Diddy's defense team probably coming out with that very strong, very aggressive cross-examination, and, come her time to testify, she could be months pregnant. What do you think that could really look like, and how that could translate in front of a jury? I feel like they would have to be pretty delicate there.
All right, let's do the math, Ron. Let's do the math. Kathy's 5 months pregnant. This is March. March. What's after March? After March. Okay. April, May. So she'd be 7 months, 8 months pregnant when she could not looking good, Diddy. But you know what? Do you think that after Diddy gave Cassie this alleged over 100 million, or definitely at least 30 million, do you think that she and You think they celebrated and brought another baby to life in this world now that they could even afford it even more? Somebody put it there. Was this a celebration baby for beating the lawsuit, or was this a celebration baby for, freeing herself to get this out after all these years? Somebody put it in the comment. Let's see where you at.
No question. And it's not good news for the defense. Everyone loves a pregnant woman. So when you have a pregnant woman on the witness stand testifying, already there has to be some sensitivity. And that's why, oftentimes, we talked about at the top, that, you'll have females who cross-examine females who are making these types of accusations. Obviously, a recent famous case was Camille Vasquez cross-examining Amber Heard. Sometimes it can be overbearing just from a perception perspective, when you have a man cross-examining a female victim, and then now you have a pregnant female victim. So I would expect that cross-examination to be done by a female lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to tap out right there. Been on there long enough. What do y'all think about this? Why do you think Diddy's lawyer quit? What do you think about them filing racism, that they don't treat other people charged with the same charge as Diddy in that manner? Cassie being 5 months pregnant, so when the trial begin in May, she'll be about 7 to 8 months pregnant, going there with a big baby, looking beautiful and glowing and terrifying, refreshed. And do you think they'll even let her get on the stand at that time? Put that in the comments. That's what I want you ladies to do, And I definitely need your men's side too, but your opinion don't mean nothing in this. But the women's opinion do, Do you think that would affect the baby, her having an emotional direct examination and cross-examination while she's 8 months pregnant? I think they're going to use that just alone to postpone the trial. Watch what I tell you. They're going to say that our star witness is 8 months pregnant, and we have to wait till after the baby, and they're going to push it back. But in between there, or right after, when they go to push it back, they're going to drop a third superseding indictment. Don't think that this is over, because this whole thing is just too weak, but they in the back, they trying to fight. So, Diddy's good side is he's hoping that Donald Trump people come in and wind up, firing all of them and putting some real prosecutors that would look at it and see. He looked like he's a big freak. We know that he's a freak. You know what I mean? That's what they're going to say when they come in, right? Allegedly. Okay, we looked over the case, and Diddy's a freak. He's a big freak. You know what I mean? He likes baby oil, likes a lot of baby oil. And, he videotaped things, but he didn't videotape it. Cassie videotaped it. But bottom line, they made it say, after all this, there's not enough evidence at this time. So we're going to release P Diddy until we do our own further investigation, because of the overzealous past administration people, whoop, whoop, whoop. So don't be surprised if you see this. So remember this video that I told you this in this Diddy's lawyer quit, video. All right, make sure you subscribe to my daughter's YouTube channel, Unique Mecca Audio, and Unique Mecca Audio, and Mecca Audio TV.
Cheers, cheers, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime. Out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. An Instagram page and a YouTube you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca Audio.